Okay, so rounding decimals and place value. The reason why I decided to do this lesson is because on your pretest that you took, a lot of us missed these questions, and this is something you have to know for now until you get out of this place. You're going to have to know how to round. Mr. K and I, this is one thing we talk about all the time, is rounding is a really big hassle because a lot of kids don't remember how to do it. So I always try to make sure I go over it at the beginning of the year. The 8th graders had an assignment yesterday where they had to round, and about half of those students didn't remember how to do it. So that's why I'm going over it again with you guys at the beginning of the year. So first thing I want you to do in your notebook is I want you to write, I'm just going to give myself a blank page. I want you to write this down. I want you to give yourself some lines, just like I did up here, that are big enough that you can read, okay? You can make them all across the top of the page if you want. But the first thing we're going to talk about is place value for decimals. We're going to talk about place value. So a line, this is the decimal, and then a few other lines after that. Now if I would put a number in this, what place value is that in? What place is that in? What's it called, Matt? Do you remember? What's the first place value before decimal? Anybody know? Landon? The ones, right. So this is the ones. And underneath, I want you to write that. Ones. If I go to the next place, what is that place value called, Matt? Tenths. You see the TH at the end, THS? That's a big deal. So I want you to write tenths underneath that. Now, if I asked you to say this number, how would you say this number? Like, you know, a lot of people would say like 7.3, but how would you appropriately say this according to the place value, Landon? 7 and 3 tenths. Good job. Okay. Let's go to the next place. Let's make this a 1. What is that place value called, Nolan? The hundredths. I'm going to write that. Good. Hundredths. How would you read this number now? How would you read this number? Bella? 7 and 31 hundredths. Nice job. Way to go. Let's add another number. Let's add a 9. What place value is that in, Zaylee? Thousandths. Why do you think some people get these place values mixed up? Why do you think some of these? Why do you think some of them forget or don't know what they are? Yep.
Because right and left is the left, like left from the decimal, and it's 1 to the right is 10.
Right, and a lot of people think it should mirror. Like people think it should be like this is ones. They think this should be the oneths, right? Hundredths, but that's not how it is. So make sure that you understand. Another reason why it's hard, because like what would be the place value here? Like if I had a 6 here, what would be this place value? The tens, right? That's another reason why people get this messed up, because like tens, tenths. So a lot of times we get things mixed up just because of like the wording, the TH at the end. So be careful, okay? So before we do any more, I'm going to write a number up here, and I want you to figure out how you would say it in the appropriate decimal way, okay? So, and you don't have to write this down. We can just talk about it. So let's say I have. How would you say this according to the decimal place values? Quentin? 4 and 700. Yep. What about this? How would you say this, Matt? 200. Yep. Okay. What about this? How would you say this number? Bella? Or Isabella? My bad.
30 and 107.
You're right. 30 and 107 thousandths. Good job. Let's do one more. Anybody want to try that one? Nolan? Yeah, that's a mouthful, isn't it? 200 203 and 998 thousandths. You're right. Okay, so is everybody comfortable on place value? Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to go to what that problem looked like in your pretest. Okay, and this is what it said. It says something like this. Write 25 and 6 thousandths. It was something like this. Okay, so how would you write that? Now we're going the opposite way. So you guys told me what it said. Now let's go backwards. I'm going to tell you what it said. Now I want you to tell me what it looks like in decimal format. So how would this look? All right, 25 and 6 thousandths. What would this look like? Nolan? 25.006. Yep, 25.006. Very good. Write this one. Do this one in your notebook. Do that one in your notebook for me. All right, so what do you think? What's this one going to look like? Landon?
3.06.
Very good. 3.06. Nice job. Any questions on place value? Can remember place value, because if you don't know the place value, that's going to be hard to do the rounding part today. You got to know what place value is. Okay, so we're good. We know tenths, hundredths, thousandths, and today I think it's all it's going to go up to, so you don't have to worry, like 100 thousandths, we don't got to worry about that. It's just going to worry about probably these 4 that I talked about right in the beginning. That's all you're going to have to make sure you know. All right, so let's talk about rounding. We talked about that already. Let's talk about rounding. So this is the next thing in your notebook I want you to write. So you're going to write rounding decimals on the same page. And when I had students taught in 3rd grade, they were starting to learn rounding, which was a long time ago. Let's see, 10 years ago. So this has stuck with me for 10 years. And so one of the things I remembered when the younger kids were learning rounding was a rhyme that they used. And a rhyme they used was 5 and above, give it a shove. So I want you to write that down in your notebook. Okay, so rounding, like one of the, an easy way to remember is 5 and above, give it a shove. So we're going to look at rounding decimals quickly. We're going to do this one first, and we're going to do that one together as a group. So if you want to write that one in your notebook, you can write that one in your notebook. 1.972. So first of all, before we do any rounding, let's talk about the number that's underlined. It's the number 7, yes, but what place value is that 7 in? The hundredths. Yep. Now when we round, and they want us to round to the hundredth spot, we actually aren't really looking at that spot. What spot do we have to look at to round, Owen? 2. So this is how I remember this. You're right. We got to look at the next one. So if this one's underlined, I make myself an arrow and I go look at the 2. Is the 2 5 and above? No. That means we're not going to give the 7 a shove. So if I want to round this the correct way to the hundredth spot, this is what my number is going to look like. Does this all ring a bell to some of you? I hope so. I hope so. Anytime you round and they have the number underlined, that's the place value that your answer should be in when you're done. Okay? So let's look at this one. 23 and 865 thousandths. What place is that 8 in? What's the place value there? Bella? Tenths. So what place value am I really going to look at if I'm going to round this thing? Yep? The 6, which is in the hundredths. Is it 5 and above? Yes. So what am I going to give my shove? 8. What am I going to shove it to? 9. So this would be what my answer is. Yep. Clear as mud? Okay. Let's look at this one. What place value is the 2 in? Tenths? Not the ones, tenths. 5 and above? Yep. What am I going to give a shove? 2 and make it a what? 3. So this is going to be my answer. So far, so good? Okay, I want you to try a few by yourself. You to do some by yourself. Here we go. You do these 3. We'll do this one together. You do those 3 in your notebook. All right, so there's some of these in your homework for today. And these that look like this, I'm going to have you give me 2 answers. Okay, and you've been doing this already. You just didn't know what I want. So the first thing I want you to do is when you answer these in your homework today, I want you to say, okay, what place value is that 0 in? What place value is that 0 in? Hundredths, and I want you to write that. That's going to be your first part of your answer today. Okay? The second part is the actual what you rounded. What's your answer when you rounded? So when you rounded this, you looked over here, you didn't give it a shove, so what would your answer have been here after you rounded, Matt? 4.9. 4.9, or could you have 4.90 also? Yes, you could have either one. So today when you do your homework and you see them like this, I want 2 answers. I want number 1, what the place value it is, and number 2, what's your answer after you round it. Okay? So let's go to this one. So for example, what place value is that 3 in? Tenths, right? You write tenths. And if you were going to round it to the tenths, what would your answer be? 5 and above, yep, give it a shove. So what's it going to be for your answer? 0.4. Yep, so you're going to have 2 answers, tenths and 0.4. Let's talk about this one. What place value is that 1 in? It's literally in the ones, right? Like the 1 is in the ones. So ones. 5 and above, give it a shove. So what's that 1 going to turn into? 2. Those would be your answers for today when you see something like this in your homework. And I'll explain that again to it when we get to your worksheet. Any questions for me? Okay, one I want to show you, and not even that one. Let's do 89.97. And let's say you're going to round here. These are the trickiest ones because there's a few more place values that are going to change. Place value is the tenths, so I got to look at the 7, correct? 7 is 5 and above. What happens to my 9? Becomes a 10 or a 0, right? Got to give it a shove. Then what happens to this? Yeah, and basically what happens to this then? It's going to look like that. Even though you're rounding to the 10th spot, that's what it's going to come up to be because you have those 9s that you got to keep shoving up. Does everybody understand how those work? I know there's for sure one of those in your homework today. Do you want to see another one, or are you good? See another one? Let's see. Okay. Let's do 73.99 around here. So this is going to be 5 and above, right? Give this a shove. This becomes a 0. And what's this going to become then? Yep, so 74 would be your answer. Even though you're rounding to the 10th, 74 is the closest tenth that you have, believe it or not. You could even put this if you want. Okay? Questions? No? Good? Okay? Let's see. I want to do one more thing. I'm going to go backwards. Let's go like this. Let's say they give you a number that looks like this. And they say, because this is also going to be an example in your homework today. So they're going to give you a number, and then they're going to give you a place value. That means they want you to round to the 10th spot. Okay, so they didn't underline it for you this time. They're just making you figure out what the 10th spot is. So what's the 10th spot? 7. Yep. And then you're going to do your rounding like normal. So you're going to see it a few different ways. They're going to give it to you this way, and they're going to give it to you this way where it's already underlined. Okay? Any questions for me? Simple for your first day? Should be. Just because it's got to be reviewed, and we got to know how to do this kind of stuff, you guys. So, does anybody have any questions or want to see anything else on rounding or place value? Okay.